Hey guys, just kind of an update slash showcase video for you because we have something pretty cool here that I think could be useful to a lot of you guys. So I'm going to jump right into it. Quite a while ago, we actually, we being me, Timist, and Nucla of the Minerva server, we designed two a 2 times speed shulker box loader. So basically you just input items through a filter and then it puts the items into a shulker box and then it breaks the shulker box and then you get a shulker box full of items. However, most designs obviously use one hopper because it's nice and simple, but we managed to actually build a design that inputs with two hoppers. Now, this is just kind of like a factory model kind of thing. This is not really a working design that you'd want to throw into your world. Namely, we're just throwing the items straight into a hopper right here where there isn't any kind of filter. But I put it here just so we can sort of compare the size. So this one's 6 wide and I believe 6 high, whereas this one over here is 7 high and then like 5 wide. So it's a little bit smaller, a little bit skinnier, and the block height up here is really just a line of dust, which I hardly count anyway. So this has a little bit of a sleeker model, and speaking from experience, it's a little bit easier to build. And the reason this is sort of a showcase video is because I think if you guys don't know about these 2 times shulker box loaders, I would highly recommend building one up in your world. In fact, we have the world download for this in the schematic for this in the description below. You guys should definitely check this out because if you guys need a really fast shulker box loader, this is a good one. And so I'm just kind of comparing these two designs because we made some improvements when designing the concrete hangar on the Minerva world. So one of the things is we reduced the number of tile entities. So basically, before we had a dropper shooting items back and forth, and that kind of saved the state of this before it reset itself. And instead, we have pistons facing down, forgetting their block with an observer and then pulling it back down. In fact, I might be able to demonstrate that as this is going, so the lamps will light up. And another thing I solved is, you see we just had the hopper facing sideways to distribute twice the amount of items. Because it was facing it off to the side and then getting pulled out from below. So as you can see here, the hopper is actually getting split. And if I put items in here, it'll go twice the speed if that wasn't full. I think right here, I don't know, it's locked, yeah. So anyway, it would go twice as fast. In this case, we actually have two completely separate item filters, which is actually what we ended up using on Minerva, and this is a lot more stable. So you can see this comparator, oh, one of these is backing up. I'm just kind of waiting for one of these to back up so we can see it harvest the shulker box. But in this case, oh, I think they all just went, oh, there we go. So what actually happens is the piston pushes up from below and then breaks the shulker box. And I think it's because all of these triggered at once. It can get a little bit hairy where you might have one stuck. That's because all of these are getting powered by, they're all getting fueled by a command block, so all of these are getting lit up. And all of these started from 0. So every single one of these boxes were empty, and they all got filled up at the same time. So typically when it's just breaking the shulker box one at a time, it'll almost never get stuck on the side. However, since pretty much all of these must have triggered at the exact same time, that can happen. And that's just a really, really low risk situation. In fact, if you're even building a system like this, you probably can spare this. Like on Minerva, for the concrete hangar, we're building this with a concrete generator that goes up to 108,000 items an hour. We can spare a shulker box. That's like a few minutes of storage worth. So that's just something to consider. But one of the problems I mentioned we solved is I actually figured out that we can use 2 hopper filters. So there is a little bit of an interesting thing when building this. You definitely want to prioritize the side with the comparator facing out the back. So the way that this thing knows it's full are the items actually, let me see how full this one is. Okay. The items actually fill into this hopper and then and into the shulker box. And when the shulker box is full, they back up into the hopper. When the signal strength gets up to 2, it locks this hopper so no more items come in, and then it actually triggers a harvesting mechanism. So it's actually a pretty nice little system. And you want to prioritize this right side because actually what I did on accident, where there was a bunch of items in here, if you fill it in from this left side instead of this right side, this comparator will never activate and this thing will never fire. By the way, these comparators can be repeaters. It's just well documented that comparators are a lot less laggy than repeaters. In small scale like this, it'll almost never matter, but you know, I mean, if you can afford it, you might as well just use comparators. And that's pretty much it. So we just kind of have a line of ice syncing these things up. And I just wanted to show this because it's a really, really cool design, extremely useful. We use it for a lot of things on Minerva. Pretty much every single situation that I can, I use a ×2 shulker box loader because it's faster. It's not that much bigger than building two single wide shulker box loader. It's pretty big, I guess, but you can build it in a lot shorter of a space. So I think it would be less wiring and less cost overall to just build a one hopper shulker box loader, but you would need double them, and then your items would be spread out over more shulker boxes. And depending on your use case, this might be preferred for you guys. But obviously, this is meant to be hooked up to fast farms, or in our case, like a fast outputting furnace array or something like that. And this design definitely works. I mean, you could build it if you want, but I would recommend maybe the sleeker design. And then there is one last thing to mention. So this was a problem in the other design. I actually have, oh, you know what? It probably dispensed light blue. Okay, I don't know why that happened. I must have been tinkering around off camera, you guys. This isn't totally perfect. Let me just fix it there. There we go. And then it resets itself. Last thing to mention is Nuke swears by this, and I know that he's right because we've tested in the past, but on top of the shulker boxes getting stuck here, he has reported a very, very, very rare chance that a shulker box can pop up through these blocks and get into one of the hoppers, and in that case it would completely lock up the system. In fact, if it got to this back hopper, it would disable the others. I think this was only experienced in stress testing situations. In fact, if you look at one of these shulker boxes on the side, I grabbed it earlier, we only had 6 available, so this thing was running at its maximum. This is an old command. I don't think this works anymore. We tested this quite a while ago, but I think this was getting a little overloaded, and extremely tense situations like that where like the shulker box gets replaced too fast. I think he said that wasn't the problem, but he might correct me in the comments if he watches this video, and if so, you guys can check that out. I'll be sure to respond to that. It's just, it hasn't been my experience. I don't want to call him, you know, obviously he's not a liar, but like, it just hasn't been my experience. And we've built this in survival. We've AFK'd the concrete farm, the generator. We've used this design, this exact design in high stress situations, and it's just never been a problem. So you might want a little bit of redundancy even. So in our case, our concrete gen only needs about 12 of these total filters, and then like 6 actual modules. Well, we built 7. So if even 2 of these ever shut down, we're still going to have a couple left over to collect all of our items. So that's something you might consider. And this is the thing that always kind of finishes it for me, is even if the boxes can get stuck and break this design, it is so rare that it's pretty low maintenance to just fix it by hand. And that kind of ends that. So, hope you guys are interested in this. Maybe you can check it out. Tell me in the comments if you guys end up building these things. A lot of people build these designs like right away, and then they don't tell me, and I'm like, I would like to know. You know, it makes me happy to know that somebody benefited from this. So I'm going to actually, no, I don't know why I would disable that. There'll obviously be a download to this world with this exact command. You guys might need this repeating command for some other design you build one day. I don't know. Like, this is a really useful tool to have, and that's kind of it. I mean, here's some single slice module right here. I think I was starting something over here and then got lazy and quit. Oh, there's a good mention. Okay, all right, all right. Let me just go on a little bit of an off the cuff thing here. I did actually set up a ×2 minecart filter. So these are just using minecarts filtering twice the speed of normal. This works as well. I prefer the 2 hopper filters because minecarts are both extra laggy, because Entity is kind of a pain in the ass to set up because you need to align this properly. I'll link in the description my 20 item per second loader. That works exactly the same as this, except that this is only being hooked up to 2 hoppers. If you watch that video and you learn how to align the minecarts, you will likely have no problem setting this kind of thing up yourself. Like, I use little tricks like I align this minecart up against a cobble fence or a mob head, and that means it can actually hit the detector rail without being on top of the detector rail, so we can suck out items from below. And this is just here for you guys to play with. So yeah, that's about it for me. Hopefully some of you guys find use for this. Hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching.